Hello everyone. Welcome back to your PW English Medium 9th and 10th YouTube channel. I am Asta Suryavanshi, your biology mentor, your biology educator. And we are back with a brand new chapter that is tissues. Right? I hope you all have studied the cell chapter so that we can easily follow up with the very new tissues chapter. I gave you some homework. I hope you all did it. As I saw in the comments, many of you have answered the questions which I asked during the classes. Also, I saw a request that you asked me that, ma'am, please discuss the previous class questions. So yes, in today's class, we'll be discussing the questions from previous class as well. I hope you all are ready. Pen is there in your hands. Your pencil is there, a notebook is there, so that you are here with me with full josh, right? So let's get started with today's class, everyone. So basically, yes, this is your Phoenix badge for your class 9th, and today's discussion will be nothing but the very famous, very beautiful, very sweet chapter, tissues, right? So let's get started, everyone. Alright, what we will be discussing today. So today basically we're going to discuss what is tissues, what are the different types of tissues, is there any tissue present in my body, is there any tissue present in plant body. So we are going to discuss about everything. So that will be our today's goal. At the end, yes, we're going to discuss some questions as well. So let's get started. Again, it is going to be a one-shot class, that is in single class we're going to complete it. You don't have to go here and there to study tissues. Whenever you're studying tissue, it is your one goal destination. Open this class, study it, and complete the tissues from this particular class. Let's get started. So basically, revision. What we studied in the last class, we discussed about the cell, how cell is the structural and functional unit of living organisms. Also, we saw what are the different discoveries, who discovered the cell, Robert Hooke, who discovered living cell, Mr. Leeuwenhoek, Hooke, yes. Then what we discussed about the different cell organelle. Right? For example, RER, which was synthesizing protein, SER synthesizing lipid, packaging and sorting was done by the Golgi, suicidal bag was lysosomes, right? So we all discussed about that. Also, we gave you some questions, right? I hope you all did those questions. These were few of the questions you asked me to discuss it, so I am here discussing these questions with you, right? Thinking you have studied cell and you have already practiced this, right? I gave you in the last class of the cell, right? In the one shot of the cell, I gave you these as homework. So thinking you have already done that, I'm gonna discuss it. Very first question, dry apricots are left for some time in pure water. So there we have taken some dry apricots and we have added them in water, pure water. Now what is gonna happen? Obviously, water will move from its high concentration to the low concentration. Hence, it will, yes, these apricots, they're going to swell. And then we transferred it to the sugar solution. Sugar solution means, obviously, the solute will be high and the water will be less. Then what we did, we transferred it into a sugar solution, basically having less water and more solute, right? That is, more water will be present inside the apricot. So obviously now what will happen? The water will move out. Isn't it? Next question. A RBC is kept in concentrated saline solution. Concentrated saline solution. What do we mean by concentrated? Concentrated means more solute. More solute means, yes, less water. So basically, the water will move from its high concentration to its low concentration. That is, obviously, the red blood cell will shrink. Yes, amazing. Next question. Plasma membrane of a cell breaks down. Obviously, if the plasma membrane is breaking down, the cell will die. Amazing. Next question. The Rio leaves are boiled in the water first and then we add a drop of sugar syrup. See, if you're boiling anything, that is gonna be killed. So basically here the leaves are gonna get killed. Here the leaves are gonna be killed because of boiling. And then we add, then nothing happens because obviously already the leaf is killed. If the Golgi is removed, Golgi was performing the packaging, modification and distribution, all of that will stop. So that was one of the homework. The next one was this, where they have taken the 4 potatoes, A, B, C, D, and they are something doing with it, right? Let's say they have taken A, B, C, and D, right? They have taken 4 potatoes and they have taken boiled potatoes, and what they are doing, in the cup A they are keeping it as empty, in the cup B they are adding sugar. In the cup C, what they are doing, they are adding salt, and for the D cup, what they are doing, they are boiling it and adding sugar, and they have boiled it. What is the next thing what they are asking? They have kept it for few hours, then we have to answer these questions. Basically, whatever was written here, I have described it in this diagram form, right? What they are asking, why water gather in the hollowed portion of B and C? See here, students, here sugar is there, right? So sugar basically is nothing but, yes, solute, high solute, that is. High solute means, yes, less water. So basically water is less here. Obviously water will move from the high concentration to the low. So obviously in this hollow portion the water will gather. Similarly for the same, if salt is here, that is we can say solute is here, solute is high, and if solute is high, obviously water is going to be low. So obviously water is low here, water move from high concentration to the low concentration. The definition of osmosis, obviously it will gather. So this question is done. Right? Next question. Why is potato A necessary? Why we are keeping A? A is like a control, right? So we can compare it. We can compare if we do not add anything, then what happens, and if we add anything, then what happens. So basically for comparison, for a control. Why water does not gather in the A and D? D, because it is boiled. I told you, if it is boiled, it is killed, hence no osmosis will be taking place, right? So we can say D because boiled, it is killed. And why in A? Water for the movement according to the definition of osmosis is requiring high concentration to low concentration. Where are you seeing any difference in the concentration of water? Is there any? No. So how will the water move? So that was with respect to A. That was about the questions. I hope those who have asked me about the homework, now they are clear with it. And I hope you got most of them correct. So let's get started with our chapter now, that is tissues. Though I have already told you what are tissues in my previous class cell, but still since this is the beginning of the chapter, I'll be telling you again. So what is tissues? Tissues are nothing but a group of cells. When the cells group together to perform a particular functions, right? When these cells, they group together and together they are performing a function, that group of cell is called as tissues, right? They can have a similar structure or dissimilar structure, but yes, their origin should be same, right? For example, there is a nervous tissue in the brain, so all the cells will be of neuron. They have a common origin, right? So we can say tissue is nothing but a group of cells which are grouping together to perform a particular function. Those cells can be similar or dissimilar in shape, in structure, right? Can you give me some example? Yes, so we can write down, for example, blood. Blood is a tissue. Muscles are the tissue. That was about tissue. Term tissue was given by, who gave this term tissue? Right, just my name is Astha and it is given to me by my father. So who gave this term tissue? The tissue term is given by a person called as Bichet. Right, Bichet gave the term tissue, and the study of tissue is called as, yes, histology. The study of tissue is called as histology, just like the study of cell is called as cytology. Right? Next topic. Okay, why do we need tissues? So obviously, if I give any assignment to a single student, and if I gave the same assignment to, let's say, group of 5 students, who is gonna do it faster? Obviously the group of 5 students. So basically I can say the load on an individual cell decreases, right? And there is distribution of the work. There is division of labor. The work is being divided, and we know, just like we saw in previous class, the cells form tissues, the tissues form organs, and organs form organ system. So we remember that as well. That is the work on the individual cell decreases, and these tissues, they organize to form organ into organ system, and hence we can say there is division of labor. There is division of labor. Division means divide and labor means work. So we are dividing the work. The work is being divided with the help of the tissues. Alright. The next, what does this question says? It says that are plants and animals made up of same type of tissues? What do you think? So let's decode it, okay? Let's try to decode it. If we talk about the plants, everyone, if we talk about the plants, plants are stationary. They are fixed. They do not move from one position to another, right? Suppose you have kept a plant in your garden. Obviously, next day it's not going to move to your neighbor's garden until and unless the neighbors itself come to your garden and take it away. Obviously, on its own, it's not going to move. So the plants, they are stationary. They are not shifting their position. They are at their position. They are not moving from one position to other. But do we? Yes, I obviously moved here. So obviously the animals, or shall I say the animals, they are motile. They move. They change their position, right? They show movement. Why do we move? For food, for maybe shelter, for finding the mate. So animals, yes, they move. Next thing, plants are able to make their own food, right? They are able to make their own food, but animals, obviously, we cannot make their own food. So we can say the plants, they are autotrophic. Autotrophic means that is, they are capable to make their own food, and hence we can say animals, they are heterotrophic. Heterotrophs means the animals which are not capable to make their own food, not capable to make their food, right? Making sense to all? So obviously one can move, one cannot move, one can make their food, one cannot. So obviously how will they have different tissues? Right? How will they have same tissues? They will have different tissues, isn't it? That is, the plant tissues are gonna be different, the animal tissues are gonna be different. They will have the tissue which help them to move. They will have the tissue which help them to make their own food, right? That is the reason that plants and animals do not have same kind of tissues. They have different kind of tissues. So therefore the answer to this question, we got to answer this to this question. The answer is no. A big fat no. Right? Let's move. Now let's have a difference between the plant tissue and the animal tissue. The plant tissue, basically they have more dead cells in them. The tissues are dead. What do we mean by dead? That is, they do not have the protoplasm. They do not have the cytoplasm. So either cytoplasm is almost missing or almost very negligible, right? So we can say plant tissues are the one which have dead tissues in them more in number, but if we talk about animal tissues, they have living tissues more in number, right? Next point of difference, I can say that the plant will have those tissue which help them to be stationary, and animal tissue will have those type of tissue which help them to move. And obviously to move we require more energy. Our cells are living in nature require more energy, but on the other hand, plant tissues, they are dead and also they do not move, therefore their energy requirement is less, right? One more difference I can mention here, that do you see that your body grows throughout the body? Throughout the body you can see the growth. My fingers are growing, my face is growing, my body is growing. But if we talk about plants, do they show growth on each and every part? Answer is no. Plants only grow at specific areas, not throughout the body. But yes, plants grow throughout the life. But do we grow throughout the life? Obviously no. Like I have reached a certain height, I will remain like this. Yes, my whole body part has grown from the baby age to mine, but right now I have stopped growing. My height is not continuously keeping growing. But plants, they grow throughout the life. So that was the basic difference. Plant tissues have more dead tissues, animal have more living. Plant growth is restricted to certain regions and they divide throughout the life. Animals, they do not grow throughout the life, but yes, the growth takes place throughout the body. They are obviously comparatively simpler. Animals are more complex. They have the tissue which help them to be stationary, and animals which have them to be mobile. Hence, the plants, they require less energy and the animals require more energy. So that was about the difference between the plant tissues and animal tissues. Let's move forward. Alright, now we start with the next topic, that is we're going to see these tissues in detail. First we will see the plant tissue, then we will move towards the animal tissue. So let's get started with the discussion of plant tissues first. Okay, so basically plant tissues are divided into two types. Either they have the ability to divide or they do not have the ability to divide. So if they have the ability to divide, they are called as meristematic tissues, and meristematic tissues are further of three types, that is apical meristematic tissue, lateral and intercalary meristematic tissues. But if the cells of the plant tissue, they do not have the ability to divide, they are called as the permanent tissue, and permanent tissue are of two types, that is the simple and the complex permanent tissue. Simple is further of three types, parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and complex is further of two types only, that is xylem and phloem. Yes, we're going to see each and every tissue in detail. First, we will start from the meristematic tissues, that is the cells who have the capacity to divide. So let's get started. We already know that these will have cells which have the capacity to divide. Since these cells of the meristematic tissue can divide, hence the meristematic tissue can be also called as the dividing tissue. Since it is dividing, the cells of this tissue are dividing, hence this tissue can be also called as the dividing tissue. And once it is dividing, it is adding the cells, and once the cells are adding, it will help in the growth of the cell, either the lengthwise or the diameter wise, or shall I say the girth, right? If I see any plant, If I see any plant, if I see the length is this. And if I talk about the girth is the diameter wise. This is the girth. Right? The vertically I show the length, and girth is nothing but the horizontal line. Okay? Like that. The diameter. Right? Okay. Meristematic tissue have the capacity to divide, hence called as dividing tissue. And by dividing, it will help in increasing the length and the girth. Right? It increases the length and the girth of the plant, and therefore it is helping in the growth of the plant. Hence it is also called as the growing tissue. The another name of this tissue is growing tissue. It helps in growth of the plant. Also, I told you that the growth only takes place in the restricted regions, right? Growth in the plants, since it is restricted to only certain regions. And those regions where the growth are taking place only at the specific region, those specific region can be called as meristems. And why are they showing growth? Because they have the growing tissue, that is the meristematic tissue. So I can say those certain regions can be called as the meristems. And why do they show the growth? Because they have meristematic tissue. They have meristematic tissues. Right? So that was about the basic introduction of meristematic tissues. What type of cells do they have? Right? Let's have a look at the characteristics of the meristematic tissue, or simply I can say what are the types of the cells found in it. The cells found in the meristematic tissues, they are small size cell, and since it is a plant cell, obviously they will have a cell wall, and the cell wall will be made up of cellulose. Yes, so they have a thin cell wall which is made up of cellulose. Also, we can say that they have a large prominent nucleus, one single big nucleus. Also, they have large amount of cytoplasm. Large amount of cytoplasm. Abundant cytoplasm. What is their function? The function is, yes, to divide. Do they need any type of storage? No. And hence they do not have a cell organelle which helps in storing. That cell organelle is, yes, vacuole. Say do not have a vacuole. Why they are not having vacuole? Because they do not need storage. Their major function is to divide, not to store, isn't it? So I can say no vacuoles. Because no need of storage. The basic function is to divide, not to store. Remember, right? Let's move next. Now, if I see the cells of this particular tissue, okay. Right? Something like that are the cells of this tissue, and it will look like this. I have basically drawn a large nucleus and the cytoplasm around it, and there is cell wall. What do you see? That the cells are very compactly arranged. There is no space between the cells. They are very compactly arranged. So I can mention that the cells are compactly arranged and hence there is no intercellular space. What is intercellular space? The space between the two cells. There is no space between the two cells. What they are doing? They are just dividing actively. They are actively dividing cells. So that was about the cells of the meristematic tissue. Let's move towards the types of meristematic tissue, that is apical, lateral and intercalary. So apical word comes from apex. So it is present at the apex. Apex means tip, right? Apical comes from the word apex and apex means tip. So obviously where this will meristem present? At the tip. Where at the tip? At the tip of the shoot, at the tip of the root, right? So basically, suppose if I say this is my shoot, if I say this is my root, so where this tissue will be present? At the tip, right? So I can find this tissue at the tip of the shoot, at the tip of the root. So if it is present at the tip of the shoot, I can call it as SAM, shoot apical meristem. If it is present at the root, I can call it as RAM, root apical meristem, right? So SAM, shoot apical meristem, and RAM for root apical meristem. Easy peasy, right? I hope you are getting. So what it is doing present at the tip, obviously it will divide and it will help in the growth. So basically it will helping in the increasing the length of the shoot and increasing the length of the root. So basically it is increasing the height of the plant, right? So it is present at the apex part of shoot and root, and hence it is growth in the length. It is causing the increase in the length of the shoot and root. It will cause increase in the length of shoot and root. Basically what it is doing, it is increasing the height of the plant. It is causing the height to be increased, right? Such type of growth is called as primary growth, right? We can call such kind of growth where the height is increasing, we can call it as primary growth. Now, that was about apical, which is present at the apex. Next, we move to the lateral. Lateral is present at the side of the plant, right? So, if I see any plant, right, it will be present on the sides. On the sides, I can find the lateral meristem. So lateral is present on the side. Since it is present on the side, it will increase the diameter, the girth of the plant. So basically it is present on the side of the plant, and hence it will increase the diameter, or shall I say the girth. Now, is it increasing the height? No. So we cannot call such type of growth as primary growth, but we're going to call such type of growth where the girth is increasing, where the diameter is increasing. We're going to call such type of growth as secondary growth, right? So this type of growth is called as secondary growth. And lastly, we have this intercalary meristem. Where is this meristem present? Let's have a look at it. Let's say this is my plant and I could see the leaves here, right? So it is present at the base of the leaf. Since it is present at the base of leaf, it will cause the growth of leaves. So basically wherever it will present, it will cause the growth of that particular part, right? So since it is present at the base of the leaves, it will cause the growth of the leaves. Here, base of the leaves, growth of the leaves. Where else is this intercalary meristem present? So it is also present in the internode region. Now what is internode? I know you must have seen a sugarcane plant. Do you see any lines in the stem, or any stem do you see? Do you see any lines in those stem? Do you see that? Yes. So those stems, lines are nothing but the node. Those lines are called as node. And the region between those two nodes, let's say this is one node, this is another node. The region between the two nodes is called as internode. The region between the two nodes is called as internode. So where is this intercalary meristem present? It is present on this internode. This is present on the either side of the node. Basically, it is present in the internode region. So what it will be doing? It will be obviously increasing the length of the internode. Since it is increasing the length of the internode, we're going to call this as the height is increased. Again, height is what type of growth? Primary growth. So here is it mentioned that it is present in the internode region as well, and hence increasing the length of the internode, since it causes the increase in the length, or shall I say height of the plant. It increases the height of the plant. Therefore, such type of growth is called as secondary growth. Such type of growth is called, primary, not secondary, primary. Right? So primary growth is when the height is increasing. Secondary is the one where the girth is increasing, the diameter is increasing. Intercalary and apical both increasing the height, the lateral one increasing the girth. Let's have a diagram for it. It is just a combination of all the three types of meristem: apical at the tip, intercalary at the base of the leaves and in the internode region, lateral at the side. That was about the types of meristematic tissue. Next tissue is, yes, permanent tissue. Let's get started with permanent tissue now. So now we are moving towards a tissue which do not have the capacity to divide. That is, yes, permanent tissue. So how those permanent tissues are formed? Permanent tissues are found from meristematic tissues only. Just imagine you are a student of like masters, and now you have decided, I am done. I'm not gonna go for more studies. I want to go for job. Or maybe what type of job you want to go for. That is, maybe either you want to go for a computer job, or maybe a non-computer job, or maybe a teacher job, right? What jobs you are doing. So you have to be specialized for that job, right? But now you have to stop studying, which you were earlier doing, getting a degree. You are stopping that. Similarly, meristematic tissue, they are stopping. Some of the meristematic tissue, they are becoming specialized. How they are becoming specialized? They are attaining a specific shape, specific size, specific function. And yes, they are stopping to divide. They are no longer dividing and hence forming the permanent tissue. The meristematic tissue cells, they form the permanent tissue by attaining a specific size, shape and function. And this process of becoming specialization is called as a differentiation. Yes, once the cells undergo differentiation, they are no longer dividing. That is, they are losing the capacity to divide. So what is differentiation? It is a process of specialization where the cell is undergoing a specialized shape, size and function, but losing the ability to divide. This is differentiation. This process is called as differentiation. Now, obviously, the permanent cells are differentiated. On the other hand, the meristematic cells are, yes, undifferentiated, isn't it? Undifferentiated and differentiated cells. Now, we'll start with the permanent tissue and its types. So, there are two types of permanent tissue: simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. What is the difference between the two? The simple permanent tissue are the one which are made up of only one type of cell which are performing a similar functions, right? So they are made up of single type of cell which perform similar function. Then what are complex permanent tissue? Let's have a look at that. So complex permanent tissue is the one which have more than one type of cell, but together as a unit they attain a particular function, right? So complex permanent tissue, they are made up of more than one type of cell which perform similar function as a unit, right? That was about the simple and complex permanent tissue. What are the different types? You already know. In the simple permanent tissue we have parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. In complex permanent tissue we have xylem and phloem. Let's start to discuss the simple permanent tissue, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay, so we have a table just to summarize all three of them here. Let's have a look at it. Alright, now let's start discussing about the three types, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. I have a table for you so that we can easily remember all the three types, and hence this will help us to do the difference between the three of them as well. The very first thing about the types of cell they have, either living or dead. So if we talk about the parenchyma, they have living cells. The cells present in parenchyma are living. In collenchyma also we have living cell, but sclerenchyma have dead cells, right? Sclerenchyma have dead cells. Parenchyma living, colon living, sclerenchyma dead. Then about the cell wall. If we talk about the cell wall of parenchyma, the cell wall is thin, and it is simply, since it's a plant cell, it is made up of cellulose. So yes, they have a cell wall which is thin and which is simply made up of cellulose. But if we talk about the cell wall of the collenchyma, it is thick, and that thickening is because of the presence of pectin, right? So the cell wall is thick and it has the pectin deposition. Now remember, this thickening is present only around the corners. The thickening is not uniform. Remember that. So we can add this point here. The thickening is non-uniform. That is at the corners only. At the corners of a collenchyma, we can find the thickening, right? Sclerenchyma, again we have a cell wall which is thick, and that thickening is because of the presence of lignin. Lignin is a chemical substance which acts like a cement, and it will obviously gonna provide the hardening to the plant. So we can say the cell wall is thick, and this thickening is because of the lignin deposition. Lignin is a cement-like substance. It is a cement-like substance which will harden it, right? It will provide that hardening to the plant. Next, if we talk about the cell types of the parenchyma. So parenchyma, they are having some intercellular space between them. That is, they are somewhat loosely packed. So we are going to find the intercellular space. But in collenchyma, the space is very, very less or absent, and in case of obviously sclerenchyma, the intercellular space is not there. Why it's not there? Because the cell wall thickening is so much that there is no intercellular space. So we can say because of the cell wall thickening of lignin. Because of the thickening of lignin, there is no intercellular space in the case of sclerenchyma cells. Next point, if we talk about the parenchyma, they have a large central vacuole. Because of it, the other substances are shifted towards the corner, like maybe the nucleus, maybe the cytoplasm. They are shifted towards the periphery. And same goes with almost with collenchyma. But What about the sclerenchyma? Do they even have cytoplasm? No, they are dead cells. And why they are dead? Because there are no protoplasm. The protoplasm is not there. So lastly, we can say yes, they have cytoplasm. They also have cytoplasm, but they do not have a cytoplasm. Remember, they have a central vacuole. They have a central vacuole. Right? Lastly, if we talk about the basic functions of three of them, the parenchyma, basically it is functioning in the storage. It will be storing the food. Collenchyma will be providing the mechanical functions as well as the elasticity. And lastly, sclerenchyma will be providing the mechanical tissue. Right? Lastly, I'm going to discuss the functions of them in detail. That was about the structure, which I hope everything is clear to you. Right? We are done with the structure. The last point is about the functions. We're going to discuss the functions in detail now. Right? Let's get started with the parenchyma first. So parenchyma, basically it is like the most common simple permanent tissue. Out of the three, it's the most common. It is the most abundant tissue. It is almost present in all plant parts. So it is most common simple permanent tissue. It is most abundant. Now guys, let's imagine we have ordered something from Amazon. A gift has come to me, it has reached to me. Now that whatever I've ordered, let's say I've ordered my phone. But the phone won't come on its own, right? It will be properly packaged. There will be thermocol or something like that. Why they are doing that? So that my phone is not getting displaced and it's not getting damaged. Similarly, this parenchyma, it is acting like a packaging tissue. It is filling the space between the two tissues. So it is basically gonna act like a packaging tissue by filling the space between the tissues. Fills the space between the tissues. Now this parenchyma, basically it is of three types, that is chlorenchyma, arenchyma and storage parenchyma. What is chlorenchyma? If the parenchyma have a chloroplast in them. What is chloroplast? It is the kitchen of the cell. Obviously it will make food by the process of photosynthesis. So I can say yes, if it is chlorenchyma, it will have a chloroplast which will perform photosynthesis. Because chloroplast is the kitchen of the cell. It will perform photosynthesis. What about the arenchyma? Arenchyma word comes from air. So obviously this type of tissue will have air in them. They will have air cavities. If you fill a balloon with air, what happens? It will become lighter, right? It will float. Similarly, arenchyma have air cavities. Therefore, these tissues become very light. So it will be present in the aquatic plants to help them to provide buoyancy, that is, help them to float, right? So we can mention here that arenchyma have, it is present in the aquatic plants, that is the plants which are present in the water, and they have air cavities to help them float, right? Or basically we can say it is providing buoyancy to the plant. Right? Lastly, we have storage parenchyma. As the name suggests, it will store different things. It will store the food, store the water, right? So basically, it will be storing the food. So whenever you need the food, it will provide it. That was about the parenchyma. Now let's discuss the functions of collenchyma. We are back here with collenchyma. Let's have a discussion about it. So basically, 𝐂 is a type of tissue which is giving flexibility to the plant. So any plant, let's say tendril is there, climbers of the stems are there, they are able to bend in the high wind velocity. It is because of the presence of 𝐂, because 𝐂 has pectin, which provides flexibility, which provides elasticity to the plant. So I can say provide flexibility to the plant parts like tendrils and the climbers and allow them to bend without breaking, right? It's not becoming as hard. Just imagine if you have a hard stick and if you try to break it, it will break. But if there is a soft stem and if you try to bend it, it will bend but not break. And this whole thing is happening because of the presence of pectin. Because of pectin. Please make sure. Okay. Lastly, where else it is present? It is present in the leaf stalk. You know what is a leaf stalk? Leaf stalk is nothing but the stem of the leaf, right? The part of the leaf with which you hold it, right? This is the leaf stalk. So it will be present in the leaf stalk below the epidermis. What is epidermis? We're going to study that, right? So it is present in the leaf stalk below epidermis. Next we have sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma has that cement-like structure called as lignin. So obviously it will be making the plant hard and stiff, right? So it will be making the plant hard and stiff. You have seen the husk of the coconut. That husk of the coconut is also made up of sclerenchyma, right? So I can say that makes up the husk of coconut. Where else is this tissue present? Where else is this tissue present? This tissue will be present in the veins of the leaves, right? If you see any leaf, right, these lines, do you see? These lines, do you see? What are these lines called as? These lines are nothing but veins. So it will be present in the veins of the leaves. So I can say that present in the veins of the leaves. You see that hard nuts, the nuts have an outer covering, the seeds have that hard outer covering. All of that is also made up of sclerenchyma. Where else we can find it? So we can find it in the stem around our vascular bundles as well. So we can say it is present in the veins of the leaves, in the outer hard covering of nuts and seeds, also in the stem, right? That was about it. Also, have you seen any fruit like guava or a sapota or an apple? It has that crunchy feeling, it has that gritty feeling. That is because of, again, sclerenchyma. So I can say here that it will provide that crunchiness to the fruits. Right? That was about the three types of the parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. That is basically the three types of the simple permanent tissue. Right? This is how they look like. If we have a look at it, you can see in the parenchyma there is intercellular space. There's a large vacuole because of which other substances are shifted towards the corner. But in collenchyma, we can see the thickening which you could see in the pink color, and you could see it is towards the corner, right? Lastly, we have sclerenchyma, right? And you can see the sclerenchyma is presented here, which is present in the guava, we can find it in the nuts, also in the husk of the coconut, also we can find it in the seeds. We have done it. And lastly, about the sclerenchyma. So if we look into the sclerenchyma, they can be of the two types, that is the sclerites and fibers. Sclerites are somewhat spherical in shape and fibers are somewhat which are elongated, right? So if we see the sclerites and fibers, here it is present, which are the nothing but the types of the sclerenchyma. Let's move ahead. Okay, now we have permanent tissue. So what happens that some types of the permanent tissue, they modify and they take up the function of protection, and once those tissues they take up the function of protection, they are called as protective tissue. So basically I can call that some permanent tissue, they get modified that is some type of change is happening, right? And they form protective tissue to perform the function of protection. So once they are performing the function of protection, they are called as protective tissue. Now there are two types of protective tissue, that is epidermis and cork, right? The name itself is suggesting protective tissue protection. Two types, epidermis and cork. Let's start with epidermis first. So if we talk about epidermis, some points are mentioned here, but we can also mention few points here, right? So if we look into the epidermis, alright, so now we'll be discussing about the epidermis. So if we talk about basically the epidermis, it is the outermost layer of any plant organ, be it the root, stem and leaves, just like we have the skin, right? The outermost layer. It's the outermost layer of the plant organs like stem, leaves and roots. Now generally this epidermis is single layer, right? A single layer of cells is there. So generally we're going to find a single layer of epidermis. But if we talk about the plants which grow in the dry habitat, the desert plants, they have a multi-layered. Can you think of any reason why? Yes, because they have to prevent the water loss. For the dry habitat plants, it is multi-layered and it is thick. Multi-layered and thick. There will be many layers. Right? Next point, if we look into the epidermis, basically these epidermis, they secrete a waxy layer called as cuticle, which is made up of a waxy substance called as cutin. What did I say? That over the epidermis, let's say this is my epidermal layer. So over the epidermis, I am going to find this waxy layer called as a cuticle. Waxy layer called as a cuticle. So this is the waxy layer cuticle made by the cells of epidermis only, and this is called as cuticle, which is a waxy layer made by waterproof, or shall I say made of It is made of waterproof substance called as cutin. Can you think of the function of this? What can be the function of this layer cuticle? What it is doing? Preventing the water loss. If any injury is coming, it will be preventing from that as well. If there is a invasion of a parasite, it will protect from that as well. So we can say the function of cuticle is to provide the protection from different stuffs, be it the protection from the water loss. It will not allow the water loss to happen because obviously it's a waxy layer, right? Also we can say it will protect from the mechanical injury. If any injury is coming, it will protect from that. And lastly, it will be protecting from the invasion of any parasite. If any parasite, if anything is coming to harm the plant, it will protect from that as well. Right, that was about the cuticle, and obviously cuticle will be more thicker in the case of the desert plant, again to prevent the water loss. So I can say this will be more thick in desert plants because obviously in desert the temperature is too high, so they need to protect the water loss. Now, obviously, the function of this epidermis is basically protection. What it is doing? It is helping in protection. Now, since the function of the epidermis is protection, the cells are continuous with no intercellular space. But if we talk about the epidermis of the leaves, they have small pores in them, and those pores are called as stomata, right? So if we look into the epidermis of the leaf, let's say this is my epidermis. So it will have small pores. This is the epidermis, and the epidermis is having pores, and those pores are called as stomata. These pores are called as stomata. So within the epidermis of leaves, we have small pores called as stomata. Now, what is the function of stomata? Obviously, through these pores, you can take in the CO2 and release oxygen. That is, it will allow the gaseous exchange. It will help in the exchange of gases. That is oxygen and CO2. Right? Let's say maybe CO2 can come in and oxygen can maybe go out. But also, through these pores, the water can be lost in the form of water vapor. That is, transpiration can happen. What is this loss of water in the form of water vapor called as transpiration? And if transpiration happens, what if plant loses all the water? So yes, plant can control this stomata opening and closing. It can control the opening and closing, and that will be done by some gate-like structure that are called as the guard cells. So the guard cell can either open or close the stomatal pore. So here you can find kidney-shaped guard cells. And these are going to control the opening and closing of stomata. Right? And the other function of stomata, we can mention the loss of water in the form of water vapor. And this process is called as transpiration. Yes. So So that was about the epidermis of the leaves. If we talk about the epidermis of the roots, what special do they have? So if we talk about the epidermis of the leaves, they have small extensions. Their cells have these extensions, and these extensions are called as root hair. So root hair are there, which are nothing but the extensions of the epidermal cells of the root. Now, what are these root hair doing? So let's say if it is flat like that, obviously the surface area is less, but if I increase the surface area, if these finger-like projections are there, obviously the surface area is increasing. Why do we need more surface area? Yes, for that water absorption, because yes, the roots perform the function of water absorption. So I can say basically what they are doing, they are increasing the surface area for water absorption. So that was all about your epidermis. Let's quickly move to cork, next protective tissue. So you have seen in the young plant there is epidermis. If we see any young stem, there will be epidermis for the protection. But in case of an old stem, let's say there is a bark of a tree, if we see in them, that epidermis function will be replaced by a secondary meristem called as cork cambium. Cork cambium. Right? Let's see, these are the cells of cork cambium. Right? It says meristem. Meristem means that is they have the ability to divide. Yes. So once they divide cells, they will add cells on the outer side as well as on the inner sides. So once these cork cambium cells divide on the outer side, there will be cells forming. It will divide and form new cells. So the cells formed on the outer side, they are called as the cork, and the cells which are formed on the inner side, they are called as the secondary cortex. Right? That was about it. Right? So simply secondary meristem is nothing but the one which is adding cells on the outside as well as on the inside. Outside cork, inside secondary cortex. Now what are the capacity of this cork? What is this cork doing? So the very first thing, the cork cells are dead. They are dead. The cork cells, they are dead. Obviously, they will not have the intercellular space. No intercellular space. Their cell wall is thick, and that thickening is because of a substance called as suberin. Suberin is something which will make the plant impervious to oxygen and water. Right? So what did I say? That this cork cell have suberin in the cell wall thickening, which makes the part impervious to the oxygen, to the gases, to the water. So basically I can say, what is this cork doing? Since it is impervious to water, it will prevent the loss of the water, right? It will prevent, since it is like a dead covering, a hard covering, it will not allow any mechanical injury to happen, any type of pathogen to enter, right? So we can say it is protecting from the harmful microorganism. Also, it is preventing that loss of water since it is impervious to water. Lastly, we can say also it is preventing from the mechanical injury. The cork is very light and it will not catch fire easily. Hence, we use it to make the sports goods like cricket bat and ball and all that stuff. So that was about the functions of the cork, right? So if you want to mention, you can mention that suberin is impervious to water and the gases. That was all about the protective tissue. Let's move towards the complex permanent tissue, that is xylem and phloem. So we have complex permanent tissue, xylem and phloem. Both of them helps in the transport. Hence, we can call them as the conducting tissue because they are helping in conducting the substances, either the water or the food, but their conducting tissue also can be called as vascular tissue. And guys, these are the reason why there is possible of the survival of the terrestrial plants. So terrestrial plant survival is due to the xylem and phloem, right? So we can call both of them as conducting or vascular tissue since they help in transport of something. Right? If I look into a plant, these are my roots here, and these are my leaves here. So what is happening? What is this water doing? What is this xylem doing? What is this phloem doing? So basically, xylem helps in the transport of water. From where the water is absorbed, from the roots to the leaves. So basically, xylem is conducting the water, right? It will help in the transport of water as well as minerals from the roots to the leaves. Now what about phloem? Phloem is transporting food. Now that food conduction can take place in both the directions. The food conduction can take place in both the directions. So we can say that phloem, it transports food from where to where? From the leaves. Why I am writing leaves? Because leaves are the one which make the food to the roots and other parts of the plant. And remember, this is bidirectional. That is, it can move from upward to downwards and downwards to upward. On the other hand, the transport of xylem is only unidirectional. Right? The food can move from here to here, here to here, upward or downward, right? Alright, so basically xylem has 4 types of cell, that is xylem tracheates, vessel, xylem fibers and xylem parenchyma. All of them are dead except xylem parenchyma. Only xylem parenchyma is living, rest all of them are dead. Dead cell, dead cell, dead cell, and lastly living cell. If we talk about the cell wall of all of them, yes, in the tracheates, the cell wall is made up of lignin. It has lignin because the cell wall is thick. And same goes with all of them except xylem parenchyma, which has a thin cell wall made up of cellulose, right? We have a cellulose here. There is no lignin deposition. Now, what are the functions these cells are performing? What are the functions these cells are performing? So, the function performed by tracheate is transport of water. So, both vessels and tracheates, they are helping in water conduction. Both of them help in water conduction. What are fibers doing? You all know fibers provide that strength. So I can say, yes, it provides the mechanical strength. And what about the parenchyma? We all know the function of parenchyma. Yes, it stores the food. That was about the xylem and its cell. Here is a diagram you can see from here that the xylem vessels are somewhat tube-like structures. On the other hand, if we talk about the xylem tracheates, they are more of a spindle-shaped. Spindle shape means they are pointed from the corners and they are broader from the middle. And yeah, that was about it. If you want to draw the parenchyma, we can draw the parenchyma cells also. Like this. Maybe we can draw around the parenchyma only. Right? We can draw the vacuole, we can draw the nucleus, we can draw the cytoplasm. So that was about the all types of the cells of the xylem which helps in water conduction. Next we move towards the phloem. Phloem again has 4 types of cells: sieve tube, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. So basically, what about the living and dead cell if we talk about here? Here all of them are living except phloem fibers. This is also living, this is also living, this is also living. Only dead cell here is phloem fibers. Again, if we talk about the cell wall, same concept. The cell wall is thin for the living cell and thick for the phloem fibers. So I can say the cell wall, here it is thin, 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 and lastly we have a thick cell wall made up of lignin. Right? Let's move ahead towards the function. So if we talk about the functions, so basically sieve tube is like a tubular structure and they have pores in their walls. What I am saying that these sieve tube, they are a tubular structure having perforated walls. That is, they have pores in their walls. Let's have a look at it. So if I say this is my sieve tube, which is like somewhat, okay, maybe we can draw it here. Let's say this is my sieve tube, right? So if I talk about the sieve tube, it is, yes, somewhat tubular structure and it has walls which are perforated, means they have pores, right? So we can say pores in the walls. Why there are pores in the walls? Because to transport the food can be transported through these. And these perforated walls, they are called as a sieve plate. We call these walls as a sieve plate. And this is my sieve tube. This is my sieve tube. Clear or not? Clear or not? Right? Now if I write down the functions of the two, yes, sieve tubes, I have already told you, it will help in the transport of the food. So basic function is food transport. Now remember, this sieve tube does not have its nucleus. Then who is gonna control its activity? Yes, the activity will be controlled by the companion cell. It's giving company to the sieve tube cells, right? So we can say they do not have a nucleus. The nucleus is not there. So we can say companion cell is doing nothing, but it is controlling the activity of it. Controls the activity of sieve tube. Now what is the other cell doing? The parenchyma, you all know storage, right? So it will be storing the food. And lastly, sclerenchyma, the fibers. Fibers are nothing but sclerenchyma. What it will be doing? Yes, providing that strength. Provide mechanical strength. Great, everyone. Great. Right? This is how they have shown you the diagram. Basically, you could see if these are lines are there, perforated walls are there. We can call this thing as the, yes, the sieve tube, having the sieve plates, right? Around them, there will be companion companion cell. What will be companion cell doing? Yes, controlling its activity. Then we can see here the full phloem parenchyma which will be storing the food. That was about the phloem. Let's have a quick difference between the two, which you already know. Xylem transports water, phloem transports food. Transport is unidirectional, here it is bidirectional. Then we all know that what are the components of xylem. Here we can write the components of the phloem. Then we can mention what are the conducting channels here. That is the both trachees and vessels help in transport. Here the companions, the sieve tube cells are helping. And yes, companion cell is just basically controlling the activities of the sieve tube. Lastly, we can say which of the cells are dead and which of the cells are living. So that was about it, right? And we saw that mechanical strength is also provided by xylem because majorly cells are dead and they have lignin in them. So they'll be providing strength. Phloem provides mechanical strength but not major mechanical strength. So that was about the last difference. That was all about our plant tissues. We are done with it. Let's move towards the animal tissues. Okay, this is the homework which I am giving you to write down the difference between meristematic and permanent tissue. You will be able to write it, try to discuss it with your friends and let me know if you are facing any issues. Okay, now we start with animal tissue, the tissues found in our body, right? If I'm moving my hands here, which is helping me to move, right? So what is giving me protection? What are the different types of animal tissues? So basically there are 4 types of animal tissue, that is epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, nervous tissue. Let's discuss all 4 of them one by one. Let's start with epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue is also called as the epithelium. Now this epithelial tissue is the simplest type of animal tissue. The simplest type, and it is the one which will be helping us to provide that protection, right? So it will be the protective tissue. Now where will this be present? It will be present on our external surface, also the internal surface, right? So let's say if I am drawing a human here, let's say I'll be drawing, okay, very beautiful diagram. Okay. Okay, let's say I have drawn a human here, right? And let's say this is me here. Alright, so let's say I have drawn a person here, a human here. Let's draw a little bit broader. Little bit broader. Okay. I've drawn a human here. So where this epithelial tissue will be present? It will be present on the outer side, on the external surface, as well as if there is internal organs. So it will be present on the inside of those hollow organs as well. So it will be present, yes, on the outside as well as the inner surface of the hollow organ. So it will be covering most of the organs and the cavities of the body, right? And obviously it is acting like a barrier. Why I am saying that? Anything which has to enter into my body, it has to cross at least one layer of the epithelium, and since if anything has to exit from my body, it has to cross at least one layer of the epithelium. So that was about the epithelium. Let's discuss more about it, right? So epithelium, basically they are very continuous and there is no intercellular space. Hence, they form a continuous layer, right? We can mention here there is no intercellular space, that is the spaces are not there, and hence cells are compactly packed, right, forming a continuous layer. Now this epithelium layer which is formed, it is resting over, it is present over a basement membrane. Suppose this is the basement membrane and epithelial layer will be present over that basement membrane, right? So I can say it lies on the this layer, it lies on the basement membrane. The basement membrane is basically providing it that support, isn't it? What is this basement membrane doing? It is providing support to it, right? Let's say this is my epithelium. This is my epithelium, epithelial tissue basically, and it is present over a basement membrane, right? May I draw that basement membrane here, guys? Shall I draw it? So this is the basement membrane over which it is present, right? Basement membrane, right? So basically what it is doing, it is providing that support, and below the basement membrane there will be another tissue present. There will be a different tissue present. Let's say a connective tissue is present here, right? We have a connective tissue present here. So what it is doing, it is separating the epithelium from the underlying connective tissue, right? So we can mention here, provide the elastic support, and what else it is doing? What else it is doing? It is separating the epithelium from the underlying tissue. It separates the epithelium from the underlying tissue. Right? I hope it's making sense to each and every one of you sitting here, and you here are making notes with me. You're not sitting idly and just listening to me. Please make notes. Okay, so that was about the basic idea of epithelium. Now epithelium is of two types on the basis of how many layers are there, right? Let's draw our basement membrane here. Let's see, this is my basement membrane. Right, this is the basement membrane, and over that there will be epithelium, right? Over there will be epithelium. So if there is only single layer of cells, if you're going to find only single layer of cells over the epithelium, we can call such a type of epithelium as simple epithelium. Simple epithelium. That is, it will have only single layer of the cell. But if we have more than one layer of cells, we're going to call it as the compound epithelium, right? Compound epithelium. Please make sure this is stratified. Another name of this is stratified epithelium. So what is stratified, or what is this word stratified? Oh my God. Strata word comes from layer. This word strata comes from layer. Hence, there are many layers in this epithelium, right? So we can draw many layers here. Like this, right? So it has more than one layers. So if more than one layer is present, we're going to call it as the compound single layer simple epithelium. Next, move to the types of epithelium on the basis of the structure, on the basis of their function, right? Then there are many types of epithelium. Simple epithelium, that is going to be squamous epithelium. Please make sure that this is going to be squamous epithelium. So squamous epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated and glandular. Oh my God, so many different types of epithelium, but very easy. We're going to learn about them one by one. Let's decode them. The very first is simple squamous epithelium. Only single layer of the cells will be there, and squamous word comes from the flat. That is, the cells are going to be very flat. Just like you see any tile, very flat cells are there, right? So we can see the cells are here very flat and very thin. Where it will be present? It will be present in the alveoli. Do you know in the lungs of our body we have this balloon-like structure called as alveoli. So these alveoli are the balloon-like structures present in our lungs. What are these alveoli doing? These alveoli help in the exchange of the gases, right? So it will be present in the air sacs, that is nothing but the alveoli. It will help in the exchange of gases, and we all know gases move from their high concentration to their low concentration by the process of diffusion, right? So we can say what is the function of this epithelium? It is diffusion, and similarly it is also present in our blood vessels, the tubes which carry the blood in them. So that was about simple squamous. Let's move to the further topics. That is cuboidal epithelium. Now cuboidal, the name itself says that it will have cube-like cells, right? So we have cube-like cells here. So if we want to draw here, we can mention, let's say this is my basement membrane, and over that we're going to have the cube-like cells. Like this. This is the cuboidal epithelium. Where all will it be present? It will be present in the kidney tubules, that is in the kidney. Then we have salivary glands. What are the salivary glands? So you produce saliva in your mouth. There is saliva present in your mouth. Who is producing that saliva? Salivary glands produce that, right? Suppose this is my salivary gland and it has produced the saliva, right? But it has to reach here. Who is going to take that saliva from here to here? Some tubes will take, right? Some tubes will take. Those tubes are called as duct. Those tubes are called as ducts. So it is present in the ducts of salivary gland. Where else it is present? It is also present in your testes and ovaries, that is in your gonads, in your reproductive organs, right? And yes, it is present in the gonads also. What is the function? Here it will be providing the strength, right? In the ducts, in the kidney tubule, it will be providing that mechanical strength. Also, the other function can be secretion and absorption. It will be providing mechanical support. Secretion and absorption are other purpose. It will be secreting something, it will be absorbing something, right? Next we have columnar. The columnar word means they have tall pillar-like cells. We have tall pillar-like cells. Suppose again this is my basement membrane, and if I draw my tall pillar-like cells here, so I can draw them, right? Something like that. Something like that. Tall pillar-like cells, and we can see their nucleus is somewhat very long, and at the base of the cell we can find the nucleus, right? So nucleus is at the base of the cell, and the cells are tall, slender, long, elongated, long pillar-like cells are there, right? Where it will be present? It will be present in the inner lining of the intestine. Right? Now, why I am saying that? Why I am mentioning inner lining of the intestine? So, if I see my intestine, the part of my digestive tract, the function of intestine is to absorb the digested food into the blood, right? So, for that, if we see the columnar cells here, we see that there is something unique. Why I am saying something unique is there? Because if I see the cells, the cell has something in them. That is, the plasma membrane is having folds. Do you see these? Could you see these? We see that plasma membrane, suppose it's like flat, again the same concept, we are having folds in the plasma membrane, and these folds in the plasma membrane, they are called as microvilli, right? So we can find microvilli, basically folds in the inner lining of intestine. Now, what are these folds doing? They are obviously increasing the surface area. More the surface area, more the absorption. So we can mention they increase the surface area for maximum absorption of food, right? Wherever you see any surface area increase, that will be generally because of these finger-like projection. You remember, right? That was about the columnar epithelium. We have seen the function, we have seen the structure and all. Let's move ahead. Now we have ciliated epithelium. Now what is that now? So let's say we have again those tall columnar cells, that is the pillar-like cells. Right now they do not have the finger-like projections, right? If we look into the cells of these, the cells are going to be tall like these, right? The cells are gonna be tall. Yes, the nucleus will be at the base. Yes, we have these columnar cells. Now what is so special about them? So they have some hair-like structures on top of them. They have hair-like structures on top of them, right? Hair-like structures called as cilia. You have seen any Minions, right? The Minion movie, and they have 2-3 hairs on them. It looks something like that, isn't it? So just like on the cell, we have a hair-like structure. Please do not confuse it with the microvilli. Microvilli are changes, are folds in the plasma membrane itself. Here we are adding the hair-like structures on the surface of the cell, right? Hair-like structures on the surface. Hair-like structures which are present on the surface. On the surface of the cell. So what are these hair cells doing? What are these hair doing? They are acting like a broom. They are acting like a jhadu, right? So whatever comes in contact with them, they are going to move that, right? For example, it will be present in my respiratory tract. If any mucus come, any slimy substance come, it's gonna move and it's gonna push outwards so that it's not gonna come inside my lungs and damage it. It is throwing that out, right? Similarly, it is also present in our fallopian tube or oviduct. There it will be moving the egg, right? Basically it will be moving the substances whatever comes in contact with them, right? So we can say yes, they are tall slender cells which have cilia. They are present in the respiratory tract and the oviduct, and basically they help in the movement of that substance in a particular direction. So that was about it. Let's move to the last type of the epithelium, glandular epithelium. All of them are simple epithelium, right? If we talk about the glandular epithelium, basically how it is formed. It is formed, let's say these are the cells. These are the cells. These are the cells of epithelium, and if the portion of it folds inward, right? If I see this epithelium folding inwards, then it is gonna form the glandular epithelium, right? Once it folds inward, then what function will it perform? It is gonna perform the function of secretion. That is, it will produce something, release something, produce it and release it. Example, salivary glands. Produce saliva, release it. We have sweat on our body, sweat gland produced by the sweat gland produces sweat. Then we have oil on my face produced by the oil glands, right? So we can talk about them that they are tall slender cells, right? And they're going to fold inside. Invaginate means they're going to fold to form this epithelium where it will be present in the lining of intestines and glands. Basically we can say example, the sweat gland, oil gland, salivary gland, and the basic function is secretion. They'll be secreting different types of substances, for example either sweat or oil or saliva. Lastly, we have stratified squamous tissue. Right, stratified squamous tissue is nothing which we were discussing here. Do you remember I told you that there are two types of the tissue, that is the simple epithelium and the compound epithelium. So this compound epithelium, did you saw that on the top of the cells I have drawn the very flat cells? Yes, in the bottom maybe I have drawn columnar, then maybe in the middle cuboidal, but at the top I have drawn, yes, squamous, very flat thin cells. Since at the top we have flat thin squamous cells, hence the name stratified squamous epithelium. Stratified squamous epithelium. Now, what is the function of this epithelium? Since there are so many layers, therefore the function is protection. It will be protecting, right? Since more layers are there, it will be more thicker and hence more durable. So it will be giving that protection. So where it will be present, where we need protection, where there will be regular wear and tear going on. For example, my skin. For example, the lining of the mouth. For example, the esophagus, the food pipe. Right? So it will be present in. Remember, it is also a squamous epithelium. Remember, do not miss this word squamous because the top cells are flat. So it will be present in the esophagus, which is nothing but the food pipe. Also, inner lining of the mouth and the skin. And skin. So that was all about the epithelium. Let's move ahead towards the next type of the tissue. So we have here the nervous tissue. Right, guys, I am moving here and suddenly maybe I go to my kitchen. I see a cup or a bottle there and I don't know it is hot. And out of a sudden I am thinking, let's have it. You know, and whenever I touch it, what happens? I'm going to withdraw my hand. I'll be like, oh, right, this will be my response. Why this happened? Or maybe you see a very harmful dog barking at you. What are you going to do? You're going to run. So why you are showing such type of responses? This is because of none other than nervous tissue. You are able to walk, you are able to talk, you are able to make your notes here, you are able to study, you are able to play any instrument. All of that is because of this nervous tissue. So nervous tissue basically is composed of the brain, the spinal cord and the nerves. Brain, spinal cord and the nerves. Now, since it is a tissue, it will be made up of cells. And what are the cells of this tissue? The cells are called as the neuron, or also called as the nerve cell. So basically I can say neuron is the structural and functional unit of nervous system. It's the structural and functional unit of nervous system, right? Let's have a look at the neuron. You already know that it is the longest cell of the body. That we already know, right? So if we talk about the neurons, yes, they are present whole in my body and they form that network, right? So they are distributed throughout the body, forming a network. Let's have a look into the neuron. So this is the basic diagram of a neuron. If I see just like any other cell, what it will have? Yes, it will have the nucleus. It will have the cytoplasm around it. So this region where the nucleus is present, where the cytoplasm is there, this region is called as the cell body. This region is called as the cell body. cell body can also be called as the cyton or also can be called as the soma. Right? That was about it. So this is the major part where the nucleus and cytoplasm is present, cell body. Then the second part, you could see from the cell body, these branch structure are arising, which are many in number, which are short branched processes or the parts which are arising. These are called as dendrites. These parts are called as dendrites, right? Which are nothing but the many short branched processes, or we can simply call them as parts. And we could see from this cell body, not only these branch processes are arising, but a single cylindrical structure is arising, right? This structure is called as axon. This structure is called as axon, right? Single cylindrical structure, right? Lastly, we have this end part called as the nerve ending. It's the end part. It's the end of the neuron. The nerve ending, or also can be called as, this is the axon terminal, end of the axon, right? So that was about a neuron. The three basic parts are there. That is, we have dendrites, the short branch processes, then we have the cell body, which is the part where the nucleus and the cytoplasm is there, and lastly we have the axon, which is a single long process. Single long process, and last we have the nerve ending. Now I say these neurons are there which will be carrying different information. What do I mean by it? Guys, I told you few minutes back that I am touching this hot object and I remove my hand. How this decision is taken? This decision will be taken by our nervous system, that is my brain. My spinal cord will take that decision either to remove my hand or not to remove. But who will take that information from my hand to my brain or my spinal cord? Who is going to take that information from here to here? The answer is neuron. So that is how the information goes. Information goes in the form of electric current, and that electric current is called as impulse. So impulse is nothing but the signal which is transmitted through the neuron. So that is the nerve impulse. That is nothing but how the signal is transmitted. Signal transmission across neuron, right? How the information is traveling in the form of current from my hand to my nervous system, so that I can take the decision of removing my hand, right? Lastly, what are the different functions which are already discussed by me in this particular class, but let's have a quick recap that yes, it helps us to detect different sensation, maybe to see, maybe to hear, smell, taste, all of that. And also we saw that how the information travels, right? Information travels from the dendrite towards this side, right? I told you the information travels through a neuron, and what will be the path? The very first thing, it will be received by the dendrite. The dendrite will give the information to the cell body, then to the axon, and axon towards the end. So basically it's like passing the baton. It's like a relay race, right? If A person run and A give it to B, then B run, give it to C, C run and give it to D. Similarly, that within a neuron, yes, information is traveling, but what will be the direction of that information traveled? That will be A, 2 and 3, right? Which is they have mentioned here. Lastly, it will obviously control all over the body. It control and coordinate all the learned behavior. I told you are able to memorize something, you are able to play any new instrument, if you are very intelligent, all of that is done by none other than your nervous system, right? Yes. For example, did you see right now what I did? I can talk very loud. I can talk very slowly, right? I can increase my tone. I can decrease my tone. Or I can completely stop talking. I can do that. Who is controlling that? Again, the nervous tissue, right? That was about the nervous tissue. Let's move towards the next type of the tissue, muscular tissue. The muscular tissue which helps us to move, right? If I am able to move, if I am able to dance, I am able to swim, birds are able to fly, all of that, any type of movement occurring in our body, it is because of muscular tissue, right? It helps in movement of the body. Now again, it is a tissue, so it will be made of cells. Now the cells of the muscular tissue are very long, are very elongated, hence they look like fibers, and therefore I can call the cells of the muscles as muscle fibers, right? So I can mention the muscular tissue have muscle fibers. Muscle fibers are nothing but elongated cells. They are the cells of the muscles. Now, if we talk about these cells, they have special proteins in them, right? They'll be having special proteins. And those special proteins, they are called as contractile proteins. Why I am saying that, I'll tell you. By the way, name of those contractile proteins are actin and myosin. So guys, just imagine if you're showing any movement, it is because of some contraction and relaxation happening. Let's say, just imagine this part of the hand, right, till my elbow, right? You could see right now my hand is stretched, and once I move my hand, could you see? Do it with your hand also, do it, and could you see this muscle is getting shortened? Yes, not much, but you will be able to feel the length of the muscle is getting shortened, and then again it is increasing. Then again shortening, again increasing. So basically the contraction and relaxation is going on to bring about this movement. So any movement is possible because there is some contraction and relaxation going on, and that is because of these proteins which bring about those movements, because they contract and relax, they slide over each other so as to increase the length or decrease the length, right? So basically I can say they contract and relax to bring the movement. Now this muscular tissue, this is of 3 types, that is, let's have a look at it. That is the skeletal, smooth and cardiac. Let's discuss each one of them one by one. Okay, we're going to study as a difference, right? All 3 we're going to study as a difference so that we can remember how these muscles are occurring, and that is why majorly this question comes to differentiate between the 3. Hence, we'll be studying them in this fashion. Very first thing, if we look into the cells of the skeletal muscle, first we'll be starting with skeletal muscles. The cells are, just come to this picture, how the cells look. They look cylindrical, the ends are blunt. Could you see that? So yes, these cells are long and cylindrical in shape. Next, yes, they have fibers which have the blunt ends. What do we mean by blunt ends? Which I showed you, the blunt ends, they are not pointed towards the corner, they are having the blunt ends. Next, we could see that there are some striation present in them. What are striation? Alternate dark and light band. So once I stain this muscle, right, I'm going to find some dark, then light, then dark, then light, dark, then light. Any stripes, you see any t-shirt which has stripes in them? Similarly, if you're going to look into this muscle, once it is stained, it is going to have these striations. Those stripes are there. Hence, this muscle is also called as striated muscles. So, since striations are present, what are striations? We can mention here. Striations are nothing but alternate light and dark bands. right? Since the skeletal muscle have striations, I can call these muscles as striated muscles. They can be called as striated muscles, right? So these 3 points, I hope first 3 points are clear to you. Let's move to the next thing. Yes, it's a fiber, it will have nucleus. Now they have many nucleus, not a single nucleus, more than one nucleus. Hence we can call them as multinucleated. They have more than one nucleus, and remember that nucleus is at the periphery, means it will be towards the corner, right? So here also you can see the nucleus is here towards the corner, right? We can draw the nucleus here towards the corner. So the nucleus is at the corner. We can mention this as well here in the image itself. Nucleus at the periphery. Periphery means corner, right? Peripherally placed, it's mentioned here. Lastly, we move to, now guys, where will these muscles present? They'll be present, let's say, in my hands. That is, they will be attached to the skeletal. That is, they will be attached to the skeletal system. What is the skeletal system? Bones. Since they are attached to the bones, to the skeleton system of our body, hence the name skeletal muscles. Why we're going to call them as skeletal muscles? Because attached to the skeletal system. So I can mention here, they are named so because they are attached to skeleton of the body. That is, they are attached to the bones. Hence the name skeletal muscle. Now guys, since it is present, let's say in my hands, in my legs, are you able to control this type of movement? It is in your control. Yes, I can control it. I can take it up, I can take it down, I can take it left, I can take it right, I can control it. So such type of movements are called as voluntary movement. That is the movement which are under your conscious control, right? So coming back here, we can mention that they are voluntary in nature. That is, they are under our conscious control. Next point, they perform very fast contraction. Guys, let's say I have decided that I'm going to lose all my weight today, right? And I've decided that I'm going to do all the exercise. What happens after a certain time? My hands are going to start paining, my legs are going to start paining. That is, these muscles get fatigue very easily, very quickly. So yes, they perform fast and powerful contraction, but they get fatigued, they get tired. Okay, that was about skeletal. Let's move to the smooth muscle. Now, the smooth muscles look like this, right? That is, what type of shape do they have? Yes, they have spindle shaped. Spindle means the corner is pointed, but in the middle it's broader. Broader middle, corner at the pointed, right? Pointed corners. If we look here, could you see that the nucleus is there, which is in the center? It's in the center, not towards the corner. Also, we could see one more thing, only a single nucleus is there. It's not multinucleated, right? So we can mention here that yes, they are elongated and spindle shaped. They have pointed ends. And also, you didn't see any striations. You didn't see any alternate and dark light bands. Therefore, we can say striations are absent. Hence the name smooth. Smooth because there are no striations. Next, they are uninucleate. Only a single nucleus is there, and that too is placed in the center. Right? Next, we can say these are involuntary. Guys, once the food moves from your stomach to small intestine, can you control that movement? Okay, now the food comes to small intestine. Can you? No. Once your heart is beating, can you control it? No. For example, once you're breathing in the night, can you control it? No. So all these types of movements are called as involuntary movement, right? So yes, smooth muscles are involuntary in nature. They show prolonged and slow contraction, and they do not get fatigued very easily, right? Obviously, does your digestive system muscles get fatigued? Okay, I am done today, I'm not gonna pass the food. No, it doesn't happen like that, right? They're not getting fatigued, right? I'm gonna tell you the locations in the end, that where they are present. I'm just telling you how do they look like, what are their functions, right? That is what we are discussing. About the location we can mention in the end, right? Lastly, we come to the cardiac. I know you all know that cardiac word is related to the heart. So this muscle must be present in our heart, right? So yes, cardiac muscle. Let's have a look at the cardiac muscle, by the way. Here is the cardiac muscle. So if we look into the cardiac muscles, they again are very cylindrical, long, and yes, in the center there is a nucleus. But one thing which you can do, which is not here, that is branching. You could see that they are branched, right? So we can mention about them. They are cylindrical in shape. They have broad ends. Striations are there, but those striations are faint. Yes, uninucleated, which is in the center, and yes, they are also going to be involuntary. You cannot control once your heart is beating. And lastly, obviously, does your heart muscle get fatigued? No, they never get fatigued. If they get fatigued, you are done, okay? You're done, then you're gone, right? So they are not supposed to get fatigued. So that was about it. You can also mention they are branched. These are branched. They are unbranched. Unbranched. Right? About the location, we can mention the skeletal muscle is present in the limbs, in our hands, in our legs. Then our smooth muscle, where it is present in the digestive tract, hence help in the movement of it. It is also present in the iris of the eye, which controls how much amount of light is entering. It is present in our blood vessels also. It is present in our lungs also. So it is present in the different places of the body. So basically we can mention it is present in the iris of the eye, the ureter, which is a part of your excretory system. Then we can say it is also present in the bronchi of the lungs. And yes, it will be helping in movement of the food in our digestive tract, and also help in the movement of blood, right? That is present in the blood vessel. So it is also helping in contraction and relaxation of blood vessels. What about the cardiac muscles? As I have already told you that the cardiac muscles are present in the heart. The word cardiac itself says heart, right? So we can say it is present in the wall of the heart. So that was about our muscular tissue. Let's move to the last tissue, that is connective tissue. So connective tissue, the name itself suggests that it will be connecting different organs. It will be linking different organs. The cells of the connective tissue, basically, they connect different organs, they link different organs. And it will be obviously providing support. Now the cells of the connective tissue, they are very loosely placed, right? They have lots of space between them. Then now what is present in the space? Now these cells make some fibers like structures called as the fibers. These cells makes up the fiber, right? And also these cells make up some substance called as matrix. So matrix is a substance which fills up the space between the cells and the fibers. So basically what all we have in a connective tissue, the cells, the fibers and the matrix. The cells only secrete this fiber and the matrix, remember that. Okay, now let's discuss the different types of connective tissue, that is on the basis of how matrix is there, right? Let's have a look at it. So matrix can either be jelly-like, semi-solid matrix, or it can be altogether a solid or maybe a fluid matrix, right? So if it is jelly, we can call it as a loose connective tissue. Two types are there, areolar and adipose. And if the dense regular connective tissue is there, the types are tendons and ligaments. If the matrix is solid, we're going to call it as the skeletal tissue. The types are cartilage and bone. Lastly, we have fluid matrix, which is called as the fluid connective tissue. The example is blood and lymph. So let's discuss each one of them one by one very quickly. The very first thing is fibers. I told you there are some thread-like structures present in them called as fibers. Two types of fibers are there, that is the collagen fibers and the elastic fibers. Collagen fibers and elastic fibers are made up of proteins. So collagen fibers are basically made up of collagen proteins. And what about the elastic fiber? The elastic fiber is made up of elastin protein. Easy, isn't it? Made of elastic protein. Now from the image itself, you could see that collagen is somewhat white in color and elastic are somewhat yellow in color. Hence the another name of collagen fibers are white fibers, and the another name of elastic fibers can be, yes, yellow fibers. Now, what is the function what these fibers are doing? The name itself, elastic, shows that it will be providing elasticity, providing flexibility. So I can say this one, it provides flexibility, provides elasticity. But what about the collagen fibers? They are providing that strength, right? So I can say that they provide strength. Now, we start with the loose connective tissue. Why they are called as loose connective tissue is the reason they have more of the matrix and the fibers are less here. They have less fibers and more of the matrix. Let's start to discuss about areolar connective tissue, which is one type of loose connective tissue only, right? Basically, it is like a packaging tissue. It is like the parenchyma of plants, right? Parenchyma of plants was performing packaging. Similarly, this will also be performing packaging. It will be filling the space between the cells, right? So I can say it is acting like a binding and packaging material. Also, this tissue will be helping in repair of other tissues. So I can mention here, it helps in repair of the tissues. Also, it is connecting my skin to the muscle, right? Underneath the skin, I'm going to find my muscles which help me to move my hand. So it will be connecting that skin to the muscle. So we can mention that point as well. It will attach the skin to the muscle. That was about the areolar connective tissue. Let's move to the adipose connective tissue, right? We have adipose connective tissue. Again, it's a tissue. It will be made up of cells. So the cells present here are called as adipose cells. Adipose cells are nothing but fat cells. They are fat cells. That is, yes, you guessed it right. They are going to store the fat. Now, how the fat is formed? So, whenever we eat any food and there are excess nutrients present in my body, they will be converted into fat. So, the excess nutrients, they will be converted into the fat. Right? Now, what is the function of these fat? We all know come back and remember your physics. Yes, fat is poor conductor of heat, so it will not allow the heat to pass, so it will act like a insulator and hence help in maintaining the temperature of the body, right? So we can mention few points about it, that it will be act as an insulator and therefore helps in temperature regulation. It will prevent that heat loss, right? Prevent heat loss. Also, it is present inside the organs, right? What it is doing around the organs. Basically, if any damage is coming, let's say I am standing here and I'm applying a layer of cushions around me. And if someone is coming to punch me, what is gonna happen? Am I gonna be affected by it? Am I gonna be injured by it? Obviously, no. That whole shock, that whole trauma will be taken by that cushion. Similarly, this is protecting the body organs by forming a cushioning layer around it, right? So it is present around organs and acting like shock absorber. And lastly, yes, it will be providing energy because it is a fat reservoir. Next is dense regular connective tissue. Why I am saying dense and not loose? Because here the fibers are more in number. So there are two types, that is the tendons and ligament. Tendons, we can remember that it is going to connect one bone to another. One bone to another. That is, it will be connecting bone to bone, right? That is, we can, okay, really sorry, it will be connecting the muscle to the bone. It will be connecting muscle to the bone, right? So tendon is basically nothing but a tissue which connects a muscle to the bone. We can remember this via trick MTB. M for muscle, T for tendon, B for bone, right? That is the tendon which connects muscle and the bone, right? Done. Next, ligament. Ligament, we can remember that this is the one which is connecting one bone to another. Connect one bone to another. We can remember this by using this simple mnemonic bulb. B for bone, and L for ligament. So bone to bone ligament, muscle to bone tendon. Now remember, this tendon, basically it is very much giving strength to the tissue, but does not provide the elasticity, does not provide the flexibility. So I can say provide strength but has limited flexibility. On the other hand, ligament obviously is going to be strength as well as elasticity. It will be elastic in nature. It will be providing strength also, but not major as the tendon is providing. That was about the dense regular connective tissue. Next we have skeletal connective tissue. The tissue which provides that framework. If you see any building, you see the pillars. Just like the pillar is providing the framework, similarly in my body, the framework is provided by the skeletal connective tissue, right? It provides the framework to the body. And we all know they have a solid matrix, so they are going to be very much strong. It is of two types, bone and cartilage. If we talk about bone, as you all know, it's very strong. And is it flexible? No, if you're going to try to bend it, it's going to break. So I can say it is strong and non-flexible. What about cartilage? Cartilage is present at the tip of the nose, in your ear. Are you able to bend it? Yes. So are they flexible? Yes. So I can say they are strong possible? The cells of the bones, they can be called as the osteocytes. The cells of the bones, they are called as osteocyte, and the cells of the cartilage are called as chondrocytes. Chondrocyte and osteocyte. Where are these cells present? They are present obviously in the matrix, right? And their matrix is going to be very much hard, very much strong, solid, right? So these cells, they are embedded in solid matrix. And this matrix of bone, it is made up of calcium and phosphorus. Therefore, they are so strong because they have calcium and phosphorus in their bone. So they have calcium and phosphorus present in their matrix, which makes them strong. What about the cartilage? They are also present in the matrix. And the matrix here is made up of sugar and proteins. Which is made up of sugar and proteins. Now, what is bone doing? What is the function? So, few moments back, I have told you, yes, this bone, it is attaching to the muscle and hence helping in the movement, right? So I can mention one of the function here, that it anchors the muscle and hence bring about the movement. It helps in bringing the movement by attaching to the muscle. What else is this bone doing? This bone is basically will be protecting our organs. You see our ribs, and inside the ribs we can find the lungs and the heart are protected. So I can say it will protect the internal organs from any injury. From any injury. Right? Now, where is this cartilage present? It is present in our ear. It is present in the nose. It is present in my windpipe. It is present in my voice box, right? So, it will be present in the nose tip, ear, larynx, trachea. Trachea is nothing but the windpipe. Also, it is present around the bones and protect from the wear and tear. So, it is acting like a soft cushion around the bones, right? Present around bones at the joints. What is joint? Where the two bones meet, right? It will be present around it. Lastly, we start with the very last tissue for today, fluid connective tissue. Now remember, fluid connective tissue, yes, they have a matrix made up of fluid, but remember, they do not have any fibers. The fibers are absent here. There are no fibers present in fluid connective tissue, and the type is blood. So blood is made up of two things, the cells and the fluid. The fluid is called as the matrix. So that fluid matrix has a special name called as plasma. So we have a fluid matrix here called as the plasma, and obviously there are cells there. There are three types of cell: RBC, WBC, platelets. You all know the full form: red blood cell, white blood cell, and platelet. What is red blood cell doing? Why is red blood cell red in color? Why our blood is red in color? This is because they have a pigment called as hemoglobin, right? We can say they are red colored because of hemoglobin. Is RBC only providing color to the blood? Does it not have any function? So answer is no, it has other functions as well. What it do? It is acting like a car for oxygen and CO2. So it's a car where oxygen can sit and hence transporting the oxygen. So basically what it is doing, it is helping in the transport of gases. that is oxygen and CO2. Now what about the WBC? WBC are like soldiers of our body. What do soldiers do? They protect us from our enemies. Who are the enemy of my body? Yes, the bacteria, the virus. So I can say them that they are soldiers of the body and they protect from the pathogens. Pathogens are nothing, basically the organisms which causes diseases, right? Disease causing organisms. Lastly, platelets. What are platelets doing? Let's say, guys, I'm running and suddenly I fall. Blood starts to ooze out from my body. And why that blood is stopping? Why it's no more leaking after some time? This is because these platelets have formed a clot over there so that we are not losing much of our body blood. So basically what they are doing, they are causing the blood clotting. Right? That was about the 3 types of the cell. And lastly, plasma. Plasma is nothing but fluid. It will be having water. So blood is nothing but a substance which help in the transport of the things. So whatever we want to transport, maybe gases, maybe waste, maybe glucose, we just put it in the plasma and plasma just transports it. Right? So we can say it will contain water, gases, waste, hormones, digested products, and hence they will transport. It helps in the transport of these substances from one part of the body to another. That was about the blood. All the functions which I have already told you are mentioned here. And lastly, yes, blood flows through the blood vessels. Blood vessels are like pipes through which the blood flows. That was all about it. Let's quickly solve some questions, give you some homework and finish our class very quickly. Right? Girth of the stem increases due to, you already know that the girth diameter is increasing due to, yes, lateral meristem, option number B. Why meristematic tissues, they do not have vacuole? Basically, this is being asked in this question. Why do not have vacuole? Yes, because they do not need the function of storage. They are just dividing cells. I hope you can frame this question very well. Hence, I'm giving you this as homework. Next, match again. Try to solve it, guys. Try to mix and match and you will be getting an answer for sure. Okay, why intercellular spaces are absent in sclerenchyma tissue? Yes, because their cell wall is thick and the cell wall is made up of lignin. So because of that thickening, there is no intercellular space. We get a crunchy feeling when we chew pear fruit. I told you that crunchiness is due to, yes, sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma. Next question. Branches of a tree move and bend. Yes, bending was there because of collenchyma. And why collenchyma shows flexibility? This is because of pectin. Because of pectin. And we have seen the husk of coconut tree is made up of sclerenchyma. Guys, you saw that how easily you were able to answer if you have studied in today's class, if you have made your proper notes. Alright, next. Which of the muscles act involuntary? We saw that yes, both smooth and cardiac muscles were involuntary, only the skeletal was voluntary. Again, striated and skeletal are both same, so we can choose option number B. Okay, again, I'm giving you this as homework. Try to remember who is connecting bone to bone and muscle to bone. Again, we can do this repair. We saw who is helping in the repair. Have a look at it. You will be able to solve. Lastly, cartilage is not found in. We saw nose, ear, larynx, but not in kidney. So the answer is actually kidney. Right? Let's move ahead. Okay, again, I'll be giving you this as homework. Try to solve it. If you're not able to find an answer, do let me know. I'll be helping you. Again, a basic homework. Try to solve these questions. These are very easy if you have studied in today's class, right? All I'm giving you as homework. And that's it from my side, everyone. With that, we finished the tissue chapter. If you faced any query, if you have any confusion or any doubt from what we discussed today, you can write it down. I'll definitely try to answer it. Also, please revise it and try to do the given homework. Yes, if you want, we can discuss it in the next class. Till then, keep learning and stay awesome, which you already are.